So I pulled out the power supply that I was working on, eventually putting together for the DDS Function Generator, and I was having some issues with the 12 volt rail and one of the 5 volt rails. So I'm looking, what did I do, soldering, and basically I got this kit so I could practice soldering, and looking to see what did I do wrong. Well, I found, and if I understand correctly, they're filter capacitors, so maybe it's not as critical. First I found I put this one capacitor as 47 microfarad backwards, so I desoldered, switched around, resoldered, and then I'm still having the issue, and I'm wondering what is wrong. So I'm looking, maybe my soldering wasn't so great, some of the traces. I started testing, and I noticed the output of some of the regulators were bad, because I started basically from going in and then coming out of this little switching power supply, and found, okay, I'm getting 16 volts in, but I'm getting 4 volts out. So I go online and try to find a schematic, and I didn't notice, and the reason why I purchased the stereo microscope to start working on to get assembled for once I start working on the oscilloscopes, at least the digital oscilloscopes, I'm a little more confident with soldering the traditional, maybe I guess would be the 80s or earlier components, circuits. When you get into the micro SMD size, I need practice. That's why I pulled this board out to really practice on and get together for that. Not as much the DDS function generator, signal generator, more so for practicing. I need to practice to solder. I figured I'd practice soldering with the old Weller versus the new Paco FM 2028 and FM 202 kit, because I figure that's going to be easier. Figure out practice on what's a little more challenging. So anyhow, back to where I was. I found the schematic, watched a few YouTube videos, and noticed one in particular. What stood out was these regulators, these linear regulators. They basically take a higher input and convert to a lower output, either 5 volt output or 12 volt output. That there were 4 different kinds, and when I was reading without a magnifying lens, I thought I read 78 or 78M 12 and 78M 5. Oops, there's 78 M12, 79 M12, and 78 M5 and 79 M5. Whoops. So I wound up having to remove this one and swapping them, resoldered, and now I'm getting what it should be. I'll go upstairs. I don't have a USB output to test. Down here I need to really get a power supply on the bench. I do have, I just don't have down here. Well, let's see, ground, 3.3. Fine. And a negative 12. I notice that's low on others too. Maybe a variable pot trim pot instead of a resistor might help that. And then the 12, it's a little high, but awesome. I'm completed my first power supply kit. That is a DC-DC, and now I just need to put the heat sinks on. So pretty cool to practice desoldering with the little generic sucker. Solder wick, and these little Pester 186. A homebrew tip cleaner. And using kind of cheap solder. This is old solder I had from Radio Shack. So rosin core 63 37. So need a